It's lies. It's all lies. Why can't you leave my poor son?
Make the donors suck dick.
Members of his own party doubted his mental acuity and found him unfit for office. How dare they? Joe Biden could have survived Trump's attacks on his age, but never his own party's. I'm voting for Harris, but this was disgraceful. Had the Democratic Party lifted Joe up after the debate, he'd be doing just fine or better in the polls. Instead, it was his own party leaking to the media that created doubt about Joe Biden's mental acuity. George Clooney, Congressman Seth Moulton of Massachusetts, and dozens of others either said openly or leaked cowardly that Joe was pretty much senile. Massachusetts Congressman Seth Moulton said last week, "I recently appeared at a fundraiser, and it seemed like Joe couldn't remember who I was," which raises two questions. One, how could anyone forget Congressman Seth Moulton? And two, who the hell is Seth Moulton? Why should Joe Biden be expected to remember this meaningless prick, this blue dog conservative out of Massachusetts, Seth Moulton? He's the President of the United States. There are 435 members of Congress. He's supposed to remember Seth Moulton, but the narrative became Joe's old, and the media picked up on it. It was the donors, self-dealing Democrats, and of course the media, not the voters, who decided Joe Biden is senile.
Fuck the donors.
I don't care, and the voters don't care, that he couldn't remember the name of his defense secretary, or that in conversation he trails off. You know what you do? You say, "Oh, that's Joe," and then you fight for him. Because this isn't about Joe Biden, it's about us. Our party, the Democrats. The question is the party gonna fight for the voters? And if they're not gonna fight for Joe Biden, then there's a hard case to make that members of the Democratic Party are gonna fight for anyone other than themselves. I am disgusted by this. Disgusted. I will vote for Harris. I hope Seth Moulton gets reelected. I hope Elise Slotkin gets reelected. I hope Adam Schiff gets elected in California. But they disgust me. They disgust me. The reason I remained a cheerleader for Biden, the reason I say it was a mistake to push him out, is because his fundamentals were the strongest of any candidate in recent memory. His fundamentals had one weakness: messaging. Messaging. Joe Biden was always weak and getting weaker. When it came to messaging, there's no question he's gotten old. But had the party united around him, he could have been lifted up instead of kicked to the side. That's what we are supposed to do as Democrats. Take care of one another. Voters get that they're forgiving, especially when the party is behind their candidate, when the party supports its own candidate. Voters respond to that. I'll talk more about this later. I'm angry at the people who kicked Joe Biden to the curb. I'm voting for Harris. I will fight for Harris. I'm disappointed. So, except for the fact that members of his own party had questioned his mental acuity last week. Joe had incredibly strong fundamentals that would have moved the polls after Labor Day. Here's why. This election is about abortion, not the migrants. Big fundamental advantage for Joe Biden. Record low unemployment in key battleground states. Record low for the longest stretch of time. COVID, no longer an emergency. An incredibly large war chest that was getting even larger until the donor clash turned off the spigot last week and withheld $90 million. Thank you, Abigail, Disney, James Carville, and George Clooney. Make no mistake, it was the donor class who pulled the plug on Joe Biden. Speaker Mike Johnson said, if Joe Biden is unfit to run for re-election, he should resign the presidency immediately. Now, my listeners know that in the lead-up to Joe Biden stepping aside, I said if Joe Biden quits the race, he should resign the presidency and have Kamala run as the incumbent. The only recent historical precedent that I can think of is Gerald Ford, who became president after Nixon resigned. Ford went on to lose re-election 2 years later. I have since changed my mind. When I said Biden should resign if he steps away from the ticket, I said it honestly not believing that Biden would ever step aside. I did not think there were that many backstabbers. I never believed the donor class would turn on him so viciously.
It's lies. It's all lies. Why can't you leave my poor son, my Norman?